Hello, everyone. Nice to see everybody. Welcome to the Foundations of Focalizing. Focalizing was created by Dr. Michael Pacucci. It's a somatic experiencing offshoot. Some people have heard of focusing, maybe. This is an offshoot of that. And these are some of the books that Michael has written, Journey to Complete Recovery, and then some focalizing manuals and things like that. He wrote also another seminal book called The Rituals Resource. Michael was my mentor for years, a good friend. This is me at his funeral. I organized and emceed his funeral at the Open Center where we used to teach. And then him and I also did a focalizing week at Crossroads Center in Antigua, where we got to meet Eric Clapton. So after a while, Michael and I wrote a book about the evolution of focalizing, and that is available on Amazon. Focalizing is a way to increase consciousness, access, and awareness of source energy. And we use source energy for healing, access to our creativity, and for a lot of us to increase our awareness. So focalizing is a somatic technology. Michael called it a technology because it's replicatable. What we're doing tonight is not going to be affected by my intuition, which normally when I work, I do a combination of focalizing and somatic techniques, combining it with my intuition where I see and sense patterns in people's bodies. So I am been doing focalizing for 15 years and training in it. 10 years I've been an intuitive energy healer. I have a podcast called the Intuitive Energy Podcast, and my clients call me the energetic plumber when we work together. And on the part-time hobby, I'm a ghostbuster. Focalizing has influenced my practice in that I do the energetic healing work. I also use it for Coming Out Intuitive, which is a series about self-acceptance and understanding and accepting yourself and your intuition and knowing that we're all intuitive beings, how to access that gracefully. And then I also have another offshoot of focalizing, which is somatic semantics, and that's more about how to talk to the body. One of the staples of focalizing is to share a common intention. When we heal in community, which is healing with two or more people, so even in a private session, that is still an intention of healing in community because the person is being seen, they're being observed. And so we know by the quantum physics that things change when they're observed. So one thing I would like to do today is have us all share the intention. And I'd like to say it out loud. Just say it out loud so the universe hears it. I share the intention to create clarity and healing. Go ahead and say it out loud. Good. And we all are saying that, so we are sharing that intention. Source energy is the energy we connect to, the innate knowing, the energy that creates a pattern that creates our matter and our life force, right? But a lot of things can block that source energy connection. One is conditioned thinking. That's society, your preacher or religious leader growing up, or a principal in your school, even your peers. If they judge you or have you change your behavior because of the way they think, that is conditioned thinking. If we change our behavior because of what someone else or another group thinks of us, that would be an example of conditioned thinking. That's a form of judgment. And for me, I say that blocks joy, but it also blocks our connection to source energy. Another block to source energy is created by traumas if they're unresolved. And those traumas can kink your hose. One thing I like about focalizing is it really can gracefully unkink a hose for some people. Another thing is sexual barriers or not feeling comfortable in our own bodies or our own genders or having too much giving or receiving energy and that outpouring in different ways or contracts us in different ways. Aspects of focalizing that have to do with ourselves is about self-compassion and our inner compass. And what that means is forgiveness is a key to our inner compass and our self-compassion. If we can allow ourselves forgiveness of ourselves, of the situation, of things that we may have created in our mind as children that we now forgive ourselves for as adults, meaning we didn't have control over it as a child, but yet for some reason we feel like we created the situation as children and only us can fix it when we're little. And then when we don't fix it, say there's a problem in our family and we're too young to realize that we can't fix it, we put that blame on ourselves. We blame ourselves for something going wrong in our household, when in reality, you were 4 or 5 years old and you couldn't have changed your parents' behavior. One thing Michael loved to talk about is when you engage with focalizing concepts, we start with no shame and no blame, right here, right now. So just have everyone say that out loud. Good. And that no shame, no blame applies to many people, not just you, but other people in your process or other people in your stories that you have. Try not to shame or blame them either for being themselves and just accept the existing reality for where we are. So forgiveness is the no shame, no blame, right here, right now concept. If you can accept the existing reality without shaming or blaming you or anyone else, and you accept that you're in the situation, then the situation is allowed to change. If you want or need it to change, that creates an actual energetic barrier that will create more want and more need. Another aspect we talked about last week is the curious observer. Once again, when we're curious, it disallows judgment. And so you can take down some of the judgment feelings that we get from us in our society by being curious. And one way we did that last week was we observed our breath, which we'll do in the focalizing experience that we'll have a little later. What we're planning to do today is I'm going to go through the other concepts I didn't go over last week and have an actual focalizing experience as a group together. So the curious observer can be observing your breath, observing your body, observing the situation in hand, or just observing your energies where you're at. One of the things that really allows focalizing to set itself apart from other things is engaging opposite energies. So that can be a resource moment and the existing reality in which you're in. What I mean by this is when they mix together, something new is created. So if you say, I'm in this situation where I'm at now, and I feel, say, the color blue, and then a resource moment would be a sunshine day, that's the color yellow. If you bring them together and engage those opposite energies, I'll show this later, you create a new energy. And it may not be yellow and blue make green, it could be a whole different energy. It could make pink or blue or green. It just depends on allowing yourself the energies to merge. And in that merging of the opposite energies or the connecting of the opposite energies, some new energy is allowed to emerge. That can be a less contractive energy in your body. That can be a situation that just suddenly resolves itself, or mystically your body realigns its physical position. So focalizing can be utilized for mental, physical, and situational events in your life. When we engage the opposite energies, a new energy is created, and that new energy is our way of connecting to source energy and finding that innate intelligence. So once again, a resource moment is a time maybe in your life when you felt decent, good about yourself, you had a beautiful day, or you know the day that your body felt really connected. You can bring that in as a resource and utilize that in the focalizing concepts. And we'll do that in a little bit. So I'm going to ask you the magical question that Michael asked me all those years ago. How does your body feel right now, today? So ask out loud, how does my body feel? And now just take a minute and curiously observe the answer you get. Close your eyes and wonder how your body feels, and then be curious. And for some of you, you might have gotten an answer. Some of you, you might have just gotten drawn to the area in which your body feels contractive or stuck. So when we ask ourselves how our body feels, it allows that curious observer to step up and say, I'm being drawn to this aspect of my body or this part of my psyche or this part of my forehead if you have a headache or a neck ache. And then we slowly ask and be informed by what we ask about our bodies. 7 ways to condition for a focalizing session is have respect for yourself, others, and the existing realities. As I mentioned earlier, no shame, no blame, right here, right now. And the existing realities are changeable. Wanting or needing something to be different is not accepting it as it is. And that can cause friction and actually is a distancing energy. So once again, being real about the situation you're in and what's happening to you. Trying not to dismiss whatever mystical occurrence might happen during the session. That healing and community aspect I talked about earlier, that's 2 or more people. Tonight is a prime example that this is a community conjoining our energies, aligning our energies together for the sake of and sense of healing, not just us as a group, but the individuals as part of that group. And focalizing is a great segue into that concept. There is strength in vulnerability. I wish vulnerability had a different word instead of a damsel in distress, as well as having the strength to be vulnerable. But for right now, it has 2 meanings, but 1 word. So there is a lot of strength in being seen and allowing yourself to be observed. The strength of the vulnerability comes from letting your guard down and then staying who you are once your guard is let down. For whatever reason, your guard was put up as a child. We, once again, set that shared intention of clarity and healing. And we have a belief that this process has an effect. We start with a belief or an idea that this is a worthwhile endeavor for both of us, the people in the community, to be taking part of. So just by showing up tonight, there's a shared belief that you're not only interested, but that focalizing has a benefit. Once again, we ground through resource, either creating a moment of grounding in the body or remembering a resource moment from your past in which your body felt in decent enough state that it felt more parasympathetic or in a grounded state. And once again, to repeat, no shame, no blame in the process. And what happens, happens in the moment. It happens right here, right now, which allows us to not dismiss it later. So the body drop is a way for us to drop into our bodies, and it allows us to focalize. The curious observer creates our interior conditions, and it senses or imagines what's happening to us without judgment. These concepts keep being repeated tonight because they're that important. If we keep aligning with the no judgment aspects of ourselves and curiously observing what's happening, we get a lot farther in the process. Whatever presents itself is allowed to present itself either physically or in your imagination. Whether you get pings and pangs inside your body during the process, or if your imagination starts to run wild and you start seeing and sensing things that don't make sense, please don't stop yourself out of the process. That's your body and your subconscious trying to figure out a way to bring you back to that relaxed state. And sometimes the subconscious is going to do it in ways like when we dream. When we dream, our dreams don't always make sense, right? So in this case, try not to overthink the process. If you're in the middle of the focalizing situation, or if you're in the middle of the focalizing process, make sure that you don't overthink it and you don't get leapt out because you think, oh, this should be happening one way or the other. There's no should be in focalizing. It's whatever is discovered or whatever comes up or unfolds is what should be happening. And when we judge it or think, oh, this should or should not be happening, we take ourselves out of the moment. So as you know, at the end of the class today, we'll be doing the focalizing. Halfway through, just let your body run with it. We're not going to put a time constraint on the process. So there's no sort of beginning or ending or need it to finish during the process. Once the curious observer is happening, notice which way your energy is flowing. Does it flow left to right? Is it pulling inward? Is it pulling outward? If you have a contraction in your body, how does that energy flow? Is it being squeezed, or is it feeling like it's being oppressed, as if it's being pressed from above? Or do you feel like your energy is too loose? Does it have a direction? Does it have a flow? If the energy is around your body, how is it moving in and around your body? And if the energy is inside your body, how does it move? Which direction is it? Does it have a harmonic or a vibration, even a color? These are all things you can curiously observe about your own body's energy. When I asked earlier, how does your body feel? You may have been drawn to a part of your body that felt tight or dense. Then you can keep asking the questions. Does it have a color? Or does it have a harmonic or a vibration? And if it does, those answers can help inform you how to work with it in the future. So one of the aspects that I really like about focalizing and why it's a replicatable technology that, as I said, I use it with my work, but I combine it with intuition. You in no way to experience or be a facilitator of focalizing does intuition have to play into this. What you're connecting to is your own innate intelligence and your own subconscious. And what the person who's helping with the focalizing process, the focalized facilitator that I will be tonight, I keep my energies to myself and I do not commingle my energies with yours. What I will do is I will observe your energies and observe the process from a non-judgmental standpoint. You, the vocalizee, are having your own internal experience, while I will be observing that experience and help guide you through it. That creates an energy in the process, or the energy in our room, if you will, and that creates the focalizing harmony between us. Practitioners or energy workers, etc., have a tendency to think that they should co-mix their energies with the person that they're healing, and that's not the focalizing way. The focalizing way is that each person's energy remains independent, and the power of it is in the observation. So just in the fact that we are doing it together and you are being observed, that is the power of the focalizing session. And in that observation, then you, as the participant, have a way to connect to your own special innate intelligence and energies. So once again, there's not a commingling of energies here in a focalizing session. The focalizing session is your independent moment to have your own tour through your subconscious, if you will. And whatever comes up is what is supposed to come up. The structure of focalizing, I talked a little bit about this last week, and I want to continue that. I'm going to briefly go over the 9 aspects of focalizing. The beauty of focalizing is, and this is something Michael and I talked a lot about when he was coming up with it, is that I suggested it doesn't need to be linear. There was a 1 through 9 step process, and that 1 through 9 step process doesn't always have to be numbered. They can happen at the same time or in and out of any order. But the order we're going to go through tonight is, once again, setting that initial intention. When you set that intention, tonight's is, I share the intention for clarity and healing. Once you share that intention with us, then that's out in the universe, and we're able to align our energies towards that intention. After the intention is set, then we do suspension, meaning you suspend any thoughts, beliefs, things that might be getting in your way. There's a simple way to do that, and that is just deciding to not have those thoughts and feelings and either displacing them or moving them out of your way. And once again, I'll guide you through that in a minute. You'll understand a lot better. Suspension of conditioned thinking, suspension of judgment, suspension of your critical voices in your own mind or any judgment that some personal that things may have happened to you in that day. Someone might have been mean to you last week and it's still bugging you. We're going to suspend all those thoughts for the moment while we have the focalizing experience. Because if not, you then mill over those and they can sometimes get in the way or stop the process. After that, a lot of focalizing is about sensing, whether it's the 5 senses. Are you hearing something in your brain? Are you hearing something in the room? What are you sensing about your feet? Sometimes people feel hot or cold. Their body regulates the temperature differently when they're focalizing. And it's also sensing what's in the energies around your body and what are the energies inside your body. So sensing can be somewhat open-ended in, are you sensing your 5 senses, or are you sensing your own internal energies trying to tell you something? So sensing, as I said, is what comes up in the moment. Imaging is what I call engaging with the childhood imagination, but it also can be creating part of what you think your intention is and then imagining that intention in sort of a future tense. What would it feel like in 2 years to have your situation regulated? Whatever your intention is for the clarity and healing, what are you trying to bring clarity and healing towards? And then imagining what that feels like once it's resolved. That can then become a resource moment. Using resource moments, times when your body felt parasympathetic or you felt connected or you felt part of a group, a resource moment to take you out of whatever maybe negative mindset you're in and bringing in a resource of a time when you felt better in your life or resourcing in image of the future in which whatever situation you're focalizing on is resolved. So a resource moment can be you imagining a resolution in the future and using that resolution as the resource. I talked a little bit about this before, but when we engage opposite energies, the potential of them, if they are, say, yellow and blue, that should make green, but sometimes when they merge together, it can make a different color. So don't stay strict in the middle of the focalizing and say, oh, I just merged two energies and this should not be happening. There is no should or should not in a focalizing session. It's whatever comes up is allowed to come up and be observed. It creates a whole new energy that doesn't make sense to you logically in the moment, but it does make sense to your subconscious. Once these situations happen inside the body and the mind, then there can be an allowance of a shift of perception in the experience. Either your body regulates or your brain regulates, or in this case, the energies you feel inside your body can re-regulate. And as I said, that depends on the intention you set beforehand of what the focalizing experience can or should be about. But in this case, the shift of perception comes during and after the focalizing experience. Soulful integration is the way I explained it here is you have energy sort of maybe outside your body or a thought process that you're intending. And once the soulful integration of the focalizing experience starts to happen and then happens in the future, that soulful integration feels more like the energy becomes part of you and not just a concept. The soulful integration is taking the intention and the energies that you predict or intend and have them actually become part and ingrained into your body. Then, after the experience is finishing, you can have a physical manifestation. That can be your knee feels better in the moment, or focusing on getting a better job or a better home life. That physical manifestation can come over time in the weeks and months after the focalizing experience. Some physical manifestations can be in the body, and some can be that they physically manifest in our realities. That can be instantaneous, and that can also unfold into the future. So those are the basic points of focalizing: resourcing, engaging opposite energies, perception, soulful integration, physical manifestation. One of the aspects of focalizing is slow is fast. When you're in the moment and a little later, don't try to force anything. Don't speed it up so it gets done faster, or even try to change its speed at all. Slow is fast refers to the more intentional you have your actions, the more reality can meet you where your intention is. What do I mean by that is some people want to finish to the end and then get disappointed that it didn't happen fast enough. Whereas if you take each step, pace by pace, step by step, foot by foot, eventually you wind up where you intend to be. And if that happens at whatever rate, it's faster than it not happening at all, or burning yourself out on the way that you start back at the beginning. So Michael used to say to me all the time, slow is fast. I said, no, I want to feel this now, or I want to get better in a week. And he said, allow the process to unfold, allow the future to unfold through the intentional and soulful integration process. So that was a lot of information very quickly. The tangible results of focalizing can be a presence, a resilience, a connecting to the dots. Your desires actually change. Once you start feeling better about who you are, then you start imagining different things for you. And then there's a unification of your own energy and an alignment of your sense of being. It's very subtle, but if spent time and, as I said, curiously observed, it really does happen quite naturally. When you're ready, we would like to commence the focalizing experience. So what I'd like to make sure everyone does is take your shoes off and make sure you're in a very comfortable position. Support your head and neck when possible. Making sure your Feet are on the ground. And let's formulate an intention. Everyone's going to have their own separate intention tonight. What is something in your mind, something in your life that you would like to see shifted? Whether it's a resolution of where you want to see yourself in the future, whether it's something going on with your body, in your relationship, in your sense of self. What is something you want to work on, and what is that intention? My intention is to, and then if you can, we're all muted, say it out loud. Great. And I am also sharing the intention of clarity and healing. One thing I bring into this process, from what I learned, is an easier way to say, I evoke my childhood imagination. So say that out loud. And I give my body permission to evoke my childhood imagination. Great. Using that childhood imagination, everyone's, from now on, we're going to close our eyes. There's no need to write anything down. There's just the desire to have this experience and be in your body. So from here on out until the next half an hour, just relax and keep your eyes closed and have your own experience. So what we're going to do is imagine a big white fluffy cloud above your head. Seeing that white cloud above your head, now give your body permission to release any thoughts that might be racing around your brain. Anything that may have happened to you in the last week that might be bugging you, family member, a coworker. Just place anything that's bothering you, just let it evaporate and be suspended up in that cloud. Releasing any thoughts, frustrations, or fears, suspending them up in that cloud. Good. Now, when you're ready, lift your head up and gently blow that cloud to the other side of the room and let it go off into the corner. Now we're going to do some body sensing. Just curiously observe your feet. Are you wearing socks? Are they hot or cold? Are they touching something warm? Just curiously observe your feet. And after that, curiously observe your breath. Do not force, do not force or change your breath in any way. Curiously observe your breath. Good. And some of you may have noticed that that breath has shifted. Your body regulated slightly. Now, thinking back to your original intention, imagine yourself, say, 2 years in the future with that situation resolved. Your healthy body, your chi and energy is flowing. You have resolution to whatever situation you thought of for your intention. Just imagine that visual of yourself with a regulated nervous system, content and aligned in the future. That version of you has healthy boundaries, feels good in their body. And using that resource now, imagine that energy comes down and touches your current energy. That image you had of your more refined self 2 years from now comes down and touches your current self. And just curiously observe if a new energy comes out or a new image. And if not, just let the energies merge together. And in just a few words, repeat what's happening for you out loud. Just describe it in just a few words. Again, allowing those energies to merge in and around your body and merging with the contractive energy that you thought of earlier. Here, you're giving your body permission to release, to have that change in perception of what's happening. We have nowhere to go, nowhere to be. Just allow these energies to merge right here, right now. In and around your body. Observe the color, the swirls, the harmonic. Nice big breath. It's again giving your body permission to merge these two energies into something new, and curiously observing the patterns that arrive. And what we're doing here is we're welcoming a new future to unfold. And in a few words, just say out loud what's happening with you. What are you observing? And take a breath. And I'm going to ask you to feel these moments as a resource moment. This sense of connection that you've created. You're allowed to remember this in the future. Allow your subconscious to come back to this moment and remember it as a moment when you are allowing yourself to feel connected. So not only are you feeling this in the moment, we're creating a resource moment for the future. And breathe. Imagining your breath goes all the way down to your pelvis, feeling present and safe in your body. Once again, remembering this as a resource moment. When we're ready, gently place a hand on your sternum, in the center of your chest. A little higher for most people. There you go. And we're going to start to bring this in for a landing. And just gently come back into the room and back into your body, particularly. And let this process take a minute or two. We're not in any hurry. For some of you, that might be a yawn or a silent tear. Sometimes the body re-regulates itself and our internal pressure changes, eliciting the yawn. As I said, a small tear can come out down people's faces. That's not emotions as much as it's the body's nervous system re-regulating itself. Nice. Take a breath. And when you're ready, come back into the room. So when we're in that process, time has a way of becoming warped. So once again, I'd like to go back to the concept of slow is fast. As, excuse me, as energies merge, those merging energies can happen instantaneously, as I said, or it can also happen over the next couple days, weeks. Your responsibility is to just curiously observe what not only this experience brought you, but how you can connect to your own energies in the future with some of these basic concepts. As I said, allowing yourself a sense of presence, focalizing can allow you to become more resilient, see patterns and connect the dots in ways it hasn't. Your desires change and there's a unification. I know for me, when I focalized after first couple times, that was when my intuition started to become more palpable to me and had to be dealt with. For some people, it's a sense of creativity or a need to write a book or do something creative, go back to school, feel more self-worth, feel more self-esteem. So focalizing allows what's dormant to become more actualized. One of the things I like about focalizing, it is not necessarily linear. It doesn't have to take a 1, 2, 3, 4 step. It can be more dynamic in that the dynamic aspects of focalizing allows us to connect to source energy and make connections that maybe our conscious mind would not have made those connections before. So focalizing really allows for a sense of dynamic connection to not only ourselves, but those around us, our communities, our families. If we see ourselves more validly, then we see our situation more validly. Would anyone like to comment on their experience?
It was powerful, and I just felt flooded with white light and sparkly and vibrating around, and I just feel opened up and healed, and it's just magic. And last time too, same thing, and I just was opened up. Yeah.
Thank you.
Amazing. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, the sparkling is a common theme. It may not elicit that way for everybody, but there's an effervescence that can come to this. It's part of that when we let our guard down, when we let down the resistance of what we've been holding back for so long, that can create that sense of what feels like magic. Sometimes I call it, unicorn glitter. We get that energy coming through us, or our inner sense or our inner bodies feeling like it's being churned up, or the chi is moving in ways that has been confined in the past, right? So anyone else have a comment about what they experienced?
It was interesting, something that I've worked on with you a little bit of, all of a sudden became part of a solution. Instead of being a block, it shifted from being sort of something that shut it down to something that supported it and brought some logic in a good way, sort of some helpful logic to it, as opposed to the stomping it down. And I couldn't stop yawning, but you probably saw that.
So the yawning is the regulation of our valves in our system, our valve system, those 7 valves I've talked about before. That inner pressure change is the yawning. And the sense of connection that you were feeling is that what I talked about earlier is either unification or a purity of thought. It takes away some of our internal mental barriers and allows us to see the situation for what it is. And when you see the situation for what it is, then it's changeable. And that's one of the mysterious things that focalizing and these somatic techniques that are out there, that's one of the mystical things that they do, is they allow us to change our sense of perception, as we talked about one of the tenets of focalizing, the 9 points. You had a shift of perception that allowed a resolution to arrive, and you say, oh, the answer's been there all along. I just blocked it, or it was blocked for whatever reason. And this
Yeah.
takes the consciousness out and allows the innate intelligence to sort of flow in and through us. So I'm glad you pointed that out, Susan. It's a very important part of the process.
Cool.
Thank you. Anyone else have any questions or comments?
I had a question, Scott.
Sure. Hi.
I totally fell asleep, but I felt like I'd passed out. Is that something peculiar to focalizing, or am I avoiding something, or?
Well, it can be a form of avoidance, or it can just be a sense of your parasympathetic nervous system didn't know how to handle that. And so it just removed itself for a minute. And like some people fall asleep when they get a massage. That doesn't mean that the muscles aren't being manipulated. Does that make sense? So
Yeah,
it was,
good to know.
yeah, it's your subconscious just doing what it has to do to accept this process. Just like when we sleep, we dream, and our, one dream becomes another dream, and somehow our elementary school becomes our bedroom, and for some reason it makes sense in our brain. That is just our brain's regulatory process. So did you actually fall asleep, or did you just go into a state of consciousness that you weren't prepared for and you don't have a label for?
Perhaps. I don't
Yeah.
know.
But did you feel like it was valid sleep, or did you just sort of check out?
Um, I came to, I guess, so I wasn't aware. I think I when you sort of said something about the resource speaking to your intention or something,
Mhm.
it happened sometime after that, and I came to when you start to speak again. So
Okay. Well, I would go back to that. Sometimes people fall asleep during a massage, but that doesn't mean that the massage isn't happening. The muscles are still feeling the manipulation of the muscles. This can be your subconscious. That was the way it needed to process this moment.
thank
Our subconscious is there to protect us until it gets in our way. And focalizing has a mysterious way of regulating that effect and taking that contractive subconscious moment and interacting it with the affirming subconscious moment, or that allowance. And when those two happen, something new happens. For you, you stepped out of reality for a while, and that's okay because you came back. I
Okay,
do have a
great.
question. Did anyone see a third energy when their energies combined?
Yes, it was like a wave of water. It was blue and it was like a ripple effect
Okay.
hitting me.
So this is part of the focalizing process. For a lot of us, when we merge our opposing energies, we'll actually see a third image create. For me, the first one I ever saw, I think, was an ice cream cone. For some people, it can be a pony, a car, a Ferris wheel, a sewing needle. It doesn't matter what it is, but that means that image is what your subconscious needed in that moment. For a lot of us, we don't see a third image. We just allow the energies to merge together, and that's wonderful. But if you did see a third image, use that image in the next week or so and just remember it. Remember that blue water wave running through your body, because that's your sort of cue from your subconscious that says that's an image that's going to help regulate these opposing energies. It doesn't happen with all of us. It happens maybe half and half of the time. But if you did see a third image, allow that third image to be reaffirmed in your brain. Set your phone and write purple blue wave and let it hit 3 times in the next week. That's 21 times. And for the other of us, just remember that parasympathetic state, that moment when your body wanted to yawn. Remember how good that felt and use that as a resource moment to sort of bring it back into your body. Does that make sense to everybody?
I was kind of like amazed that I had a very busy day. There was a big party at work for me, and everything that I was thinking and feeling, because I was late in the car, just dropped away. And that was so fun. It just went away. Like,
So I
I
did get a
gotta,
text from Christina saying she was late because of the rain she was experiencing. And so, yeah, the suspension part can be really
Yeah.
big for some of us, that just allowing our thoughts to be suspended up in that white cloud can really change our state of being and prepare our nervous systems for the shift that we sort of intended. So I'm glad you mentioned that. Thanks.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I had my family and I were like throwing our heads back in joy and laughter. You know, that really big, full laughter, like you don't contain it, it becomes a whole body physical, just joy, not like funny haha laughing, but
That's what you experienced in this moment just
yeah,
now?
yeah.
Great.
No, multiple times in the process, and it just kept coming back to that joyful
That's
warmth,
your
laughter.
resource moment. Think of that joyful moment. Your body and your nervous system has already experienced it. You don't have to create it. All you have to do is remember it. And then allow your cells to remember it. And that you can use over the next couple weeks, the next couple months, and use that as a resource moment to say, oh, I remember what that feels like. I want to experience that again, and then bring that forth. That's a great example of a resource moment. So once again, focalizing is not linear, it's dynamic, and it allows us to connect to our source energy. What it's done for me, as I mentioned, is allowed me for my intuition to come to the forefront. I was an intuitive kid, and then I sequestered it and I pushed it down. And focalizing this process allowed me to become more intuitive, which is now my job. But for a lot of us, it can help you become more self-expressive, become more aligned with yourself, or even give you the strength to leave a relationship or the strength to create a boundary that you know would sustain you. Focalizing has a way of bringing those futures to us more gracefully. For me, it's allowed me to become an energy healer. My clients call me the energetic plumber. These are the different resources I have out there. I don't talk specifically about focalizing, but I do use many aspects of focalizing in my work. I have a podcast called the Intuitive Energy Podcast. I highly recommend it if you feel intuitive, check it out. I will be teaching classes in the future that are going to incorporate two different aspects of the coming out intuitive process, which is about self-acceptance. And then the somatic semantics classes will be a combination of focalizing how we speak to our body and some of the rituals that we have. And that was something, as I said, Michael was big on rituals. I have a slide here that was prepared for rituals. And the rituals are about tuning, focusing, amplifying, and directing. So the more rituals you can create, they help tune you, they help focus us, they may amplify a feeling or a situation, or they may help direct some of those energies in ways that support you. I have classes available in the near future, and then also I'm a intuitive energy healer for private session. I noticed some of you today are my private clients, and I really appreciate you experiencing sort of how I started. This is how my work started. It's nice to see you here. If you're more interested in focalizing, there is a Focalizing Institute that you can look up online. But the Institute does exist, and they do teach classes, I think they're 9 weeks, about how to become a practitioner of focalizing. It goes through each one of the pointed stars each week and then incorporates how to become a practitioner of focalizing. So that is how focalizing works.
Thank you, Scott. It was great.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate you all coming today and experiencing
you.
this. Thank you all
No,
very
thank
much.
you.
I noticed when I was preparing this class, as I said, Dr. Pacucci meant a lot to me personally, as not just my original therapist, but he became one of my mentors and almost he felt like a sort of a godfather to me when all those years that we worked together. So this is a little bit of an homage and a hat tip to him. And I'm just really pleased of these concepts that he brought out into the world that over time I helped to massage and refine a little bit to what he's finally created. And I look forward to bringing more of this out into the future. But in the future, I'm going to be implementing focalizing with some of the intuitive stuff that I do, and that will be those somatic semantics classes that are coming. So check out my website, check out the podcast if you're interested in intuition. And if you want to know more about focalizing, you can check out the Focalizing Institute. Thank you
Thank you,
all very
Scott.
much.
Thank
Great.
you very
Thank you,
much.
Bye,
Scott.
everybody.
Thank
Thank you.
you.
Welcome.
Bye.
Bye, everybody.
Thank you.
Good to
Bye.
see you.